Hello and welcome to our 22nd session, and in this session we are going to discuss about prototyping of a game from the perspective of a programmer or a person who is going to build the game logic. Once the game is prototyped by the designer with all the primitives, it will be sent to the programmer, or if you are an indie developer, you yourself will take the role of a programmer. Now from the programmer's perspective, I am not going to discuss about the feeding game or on the animal and the ball game because that has already been completed. I will take another example wherein we are going to create an interactive model, and our task is this model should be controlled by the end user. Say for example, the end user can change its position, or he can scale it and make it big or small. He can change its color, and all this is achieved through code. So for this purpose, to keep this concept simple, I am going to start with a simple primitive and show you how you can build this game logic. Double click on Unity Hub to launch Unity Hub. I am going to start with a new project. Come here and click on new project, and in a new project I am going to name this as interactive_cube, and in Unity project with Universal 3D SRP selected, I will click on create project. Once Unity is launched, if you come into the inspector, you have this URP empty template. We need not use this, so I will come here and click on remove ReadMe asset, and in this ReadMe asset I will click on proceed to remove it. Come into the hierarchy. I am going to right click and I will come into 3D object, and I am going to create a simple cube. I will leave its name as default cube, and for this cube to have a 3-dimensional view, as of now in the game view this is appearing like a square. To make it look like a 3-dimensional view, I will come into the scene view and I will come into this gizmo, right click, and I will come into the top view, and I am going to select the main camera. So I will drag the main camera a little to the forward. I will just move it a little to the right like this. Along the x-axis I will move it by 4. Along the y-axis I will move it by 4. Then along the x-axis I will rotate it to an angle of around 20 degree, and along the y-axis I will rotate it by -20 degree. I will come into the project panel asset. I am going to right click create, and I am going to create a new folder and call this as scripts, and in this script I am going to right click, come into create, and I am now going to create a new mono behavior script, and I am going to call this script also as cube. Once the script is compiled, I will double click this script to open it. When you get this pop-up, click on yes, I trust the authors. We are now going to make this cube interactive. The user can change its size, change its color, and change its position. Apart from this Unity engine library, we also want other 2 libraries to be added over here, and we call this as namespace. We are using this mono behavior. This mono behavior class is coming through this Unity engine. But apart from this, I need some more namespaces in my programs. Above this use Unity engine, I will press enter, and in the first line, I am now going to call using, see, it will show me the prompt system collection. I will press tab. So you have this system collection. Then I will press enter, and next I am also going to add this line using system collections generic. Coming into the public class, I have to change the color of my cube through code. So when I want to change the color or the appearance of my cube, then I have to have access to the renderer. In the class cube, after the open flower bracket, I will press enter, and I will add 2 forward slashes, and I am going to declare variable to hold the instance of our cube renderer, and then I will press enter, and I am going to make this public, and the type of variable that we are using is not just renderer. I am going to call this MeshRenderer, and I am going to call this by the name. I will type renderer and end it with semicolon. See, I cannot use renderer because it is saying cube.renderer is already present in the namespace. Instead of renderer, I am going to call this as cube renderer, and I will end it with semicolon. I will add 2 forward slashes and variable to hold the x position of the cube. I will declare public float and I am going to call this as X position, and its initial value I will set it to 0f and end it with semicolon. Next, I am going to add another variable to hold the Y position of the cube. I will press enter. I will call this public float Y position and I will set it equal to 0f and end it with semicolon. I will add a comment variable to hold the Z position of the cube and I will press enter. I am going to call this as public float Z position and I will set its value to 0f and end it with semicolon. Now after this, I want to set a variable to hold the scale value of my cube. So for that I will press enter. I will add 2 forward slashes. Now I will add a variable to hold the scale of the cube and I am going to set it to public float scale and this will be equal to 1f and end it with semicolon. Now after this, I want to declare another variable to hold the color value, and in color values we have 4 values. One is red, green, blue and alpha. I will press enter again, add 2 forward slashes and now I am going to add variable to hold the red color value of the cube and I am going to call this as public float RV and I will set its value to 1f and end it with semicolon. I will add a comment variable to hold the green value of the cube. Press enter. I will type public float and GV that will be equal to 1f and end it with semicolon. I will press 2 forward slashes and I will add the comment variable to hold the blue value of the cube. Then I will again add public float BV and I will set its value to 1f and end it with semicolon. I will add one more variable to hold the alpha color value of the cube. So I will press enter, public float AV and this also I will set it to 1f and end it with semicolon. So these are the variables that I have declared to make my cube interactive. I am now going to come into update. First I am going to call my transform position will be equal to new vector 3 and in open close flower bracket I will end it with semicolon and inside that I will call the variable x pose for x, y pose for y and z pose for z. Now next I am going to press enter. I am going to call transform local scale. I will set it equal to vector 3 1 and I am going to multiply it by the scale value and end it with semicolon. Now next I have to add a material. I will press enter and now I am going to call a material and this material I am going to call this as cube material and I will set its value equal to, I will call this cube renderer dot material and I will end it with semicolon. For this cube material, I will next call this cube material and I will choose the parameter color here and it will be equal to new color and I will in open close bracket I will end it with semicolon and now inside this I will set its value to RV comma that is red value, then GV for G value, BV for blue value and AV for alpha value. I want my cube to be animated. It should always be rotating. I will come in this variables in line number 26. Then I will press enter, add a comment, a variable to hold the rotation speed of the cube. And this I am going to call this public float. I will call this as rotate speed. And I will set its value to something like 10f and I will end it with semicolon. Now coming back to update here, after my cube material dot color line, I will press enter. Now I am going to call transform period rotate and inside this I will first call for the x value rotation 10.0f and I am going to multiply it by time.deltaTime. I have to convert it from per frame to per second. Then I will press space and I will multiply this value by rotate speed. Then for y axis, I will just add 0.0f, 0.0f for z. then I will add close and bracket, then I am going to add close bracket and end it with semicolon. I will now come to file and save it, but I am seeing a red mark here indicating that there is an error. So if I come into the cube, you can see one extra bracket has been added in line 43. So I will remove it and then go to file and I am going to save it. I will now come back to Unity. The script is compiled. Right now, the script is not added to my scene. From the project panel script, I am going to drag this cube script and drop it over this cube game object. I have this cube script added to my cube game object. You have all the parameters that I can set here. And if I execute the game, you are seeing an error. The variable cube renderer of cube has not been assigned. I will stop the playback. The issue we have is in this cube, we had added a mesh renderer called cube renderer, but we have not assigned it cube. So from the hierarchy, I am going to drag this cube and add it into this socket. Now if I go to file, save it, and now if I execute the file and if I check it, I have exposition value, and if I change the exposition value, see, if I move it right, it moves right. If I move it left, it moves left. Similarly, I can change the Y position. I can change the Z position and move it backward and forward. Then scale will make it bigger or smaller. And I can change the red value to make it red, or green value to make it green, blue value to make it blue. And when I make it red and green 0, it becomes blue. And I can also reduce the alpha. Right now you cannot see the alpha value because on the back side there are no objects. So I will set this alpha value back to 1. And in rotation speed, if I decrease the speed, see, it is going to rotate slowly. If I increase the speed, it is going to rotate very fast. So I will set this rotation speed back to 10. I will stop the playback. So in this session, we were able to make our cube move X, Y, Z, or scale it or change its color. But all this, as of now, we are doing it in Unity. I want to give these controls to the end user so that whoever is playing the game, he should have a control here to make this cube big or small, to change the color. I have to add these controls. I will come into file, save as. In interactive code asset scenes, I will call this as cube editor interactive, and I am going to save this. I want to make this interactive for the end user, and for that now I have to add some user interfaces sliders in my game view. This user interface is added by a UX UI designer. Now to send this file to the UX UI designer, I am going to come into the project, assets, right click, and you have an option export as asset package. Click on this, click on all, and now choose both include dependencies and include all scripts. Come here to export. I am going to call this as cube interactive editor side, and I am going to press save. I have a 22 kilobyte file. I will now send this to UX UI designer, and if you are an indie developer, you yourself will be now the UX UI designer, and in our next session, we are going to explore your role as a UX UI designer. So let us meet in the next session.